All right, so I'm outside of a 2020 Honda Accord EX. So if you're looking at the models, there's an LX, which is your base. There's followed by that a Sport, and then this is the EX. So to give you an idea, I'll show you. I've got a Sport sitting actually right over here. So aesthetically, you can see quickly that the wheels are different. The Sport is it's a performance-based look to the car, but as far as the engine goes, same engine, same horsepower. I think it's different by 5 maybe horsepower. But aesthetically, you can see that this one's gonna have a deck lid spoiler where this one doesn't, and then your wheel change is different. So when you're climbing models, you're not necessarily gaining those things. So it's just something to keep in mind if you're looking at this model. But the things you do gain jumping to an EX are gonna be the moonroof on top of the car, heated seats inside. You're gonna have the blind spot monitoring system as far as in the vehicle, and I'll show you how this works. And then the cross-traffic monitoring in the back. So I'll show you when you turn on your rear view camera, how that works and where it'll alert you. So let's just kind of walk you around the car and we'll show you a couple things. You've got a 17-inch alloy wheel on this car. So that's something to keep in mind as opposed to the 20-inch that's on the Sport, or if you're climbing models from here out, it's 17 until you get to that Touring. I've got the chrome grille. I've got LED daytime running lights along with my halogen beam standard lights. My grille setup is going to be the same. Doesn't matter which vehicle you pick. So whether you're looking at this, you're looking at a Sport, you're looking across, it doesn't matter on the model. They're all going to be the same from that standpoint. This is obsidian blue pearl. Inside, it's going to have a gray interior on this vehicle. So if you're looking at this exterior, it only comes with one interior. So just something to keep in mind in case you're considering it, but you're thinking, I want a dark interior. So let's pop the trunk and show you a couple things. While I've got the key out, I will point out this car also comes with a smart key entry system and the walkway auto lock system. So if you're wanting that, you're going to need to get to the EX model. So to start it, the first thing I would do is press the lock button and then press the remote start button. So just so you understand how remote start works on this vehicle, pretty easy to do. Now once you crank it up, it'll run for 10 minutes. If you want to extend that, press that same sequence again and it'll run for 20. If you wanted to turn it off, you'd press the unlock button and the remote start button and that would turn it off. So just so you know how these features work on your key here. So let's pop the trunk and show you a couple things. First thing I'll point out is your backup camera, just so you know where it's at, you can see it. If you ever notice that it gets a little gritty, just give it a finger wipe. That'll usually clear it up. Something a lot of people sometimes will look and go, oh, the camera doesn't look that great. That's probably what it is. Now you'll see that I have carpeted floor mats right here. Those come standard in the car. So know that your car comes with it. If you're looking like on the Toyota side of things, I know that some of their vehicles, Camry being a competitor, doesn't necessarily come with those things. So just something to keep in mind if you're cross shopping. Now, down below, you've got your jack, your accessories. This funnel right here is going to be used for the gas tank in case you run out of gas, and I'll explain that here in just a second. And then you've got a full diameter spare down here. So full height, just not full width. So that way we can see what this going on there. And then I've got a 60-40 split in here, so you can see the line crease there. To release those, I've got here and here. And then it's lined with my carpet and then lined here as far as keeping things quiet. So you've got a little bit of dampening there. So moving around, let's pop the locks and that will open this right here. So it's kind of cool that the locks are connected to this, so I can use it off my key or from inside. So when I lock them, it's also gonna lock this too. So it's kind of nice to know. That way, I don't have to worry about somebody siphoning out gas. I don't know that that's necessarily a problem for anyone, but it's just something to keep in mind. Now you'll notice right here that I don't have a cap, so it's valveless. I don't have, or capless, I should say. You've got a valve built in that pushes these back out. So that's what I was mentioning earlier. If you were to run out of gas and need to fill it up with a gas can, you would need that funnel to be able to put in there to then, plug in a gas can to fill up the car. So that's just what I was getting at, just so you have an understanding for that. And there's some more info down here. So if you're looking at one, you can see it right there. Now, while we're here, I will kind of focus on this and show you a couple things here. Let's see if I can do it and not create tons of shadow. So 192 horsepower, 1.5 liter. That's what's in all of these cars, unless you're looking at the 2 liter that's offered in the Sport and the Touring. It's got a continuous variable transmission, 4 disc brakes. So that's gonna be standard on all my vehicles. Unless you're looking at those, I should say the continuous variable transmission won't fall into those higher powered models, but the disc brakes will. I've got 2 front airbags, 2 side, 2 back airbags, anti-lock brakes, and I'll go over some of these features in the car, but I just wanted to give you a chance, that way in case there's something that I don't touch on, you have this available to you. So I've got a 12-way powered seat that I'll go over, and some of the additional things, but I just like to make sure you have this info for yourself. Your MSRP, including your destination, if you ever see a number different from this, it means they're probably leaving that number out. So if you're asking for numbers on cars, I'd always tell you to ask for a out-the-door number, but make sure they're quoting you the right numbers and not leaving stuff out. You've got 30 in the city, and 38 on the highway. So combined, you're looking at 33 miles per gallon in this car. Car uses regular unleaded gas. So as far as that goes, doesn't require anything special. It's built to be a cost-effective vehicle. All right, so it has keyless entry, meaning I can walk up, and if I have the key in my hand, like you saw, it just unlocked for me. Perfect. And if I want to lock the doors, there's some ridges right here I can press. Now the car's locked. Now, if I set the walkway auto lock feature, which I'll show you how to do in a second, when I get out of the car, I can close the doors, walk away, and it will automatically lock the minute I get 10 feet from the car. So I'll show you how that works here shortly also. So let's look at a couple features here. On my door, I've got my window controls. You know, my window locks, my door locks, and my mirror controls, so I don't think I need to explain those too much. I do have a trunk release down here I can press, and then if you need to pop the hood, I've got a button over here for it too. Got the 12-way powered seat as I mentioned, so you can control all of those right there. You can see as I move back, I've got my controls up and down and left and right, my back controls, and then I've got my lower lumbar support control there too. So let's hop in and crank it up and show you some things. All right, so it is a remote start vehicle, so just make sure you have the key in the car, put your foot on the brake and press the start button and it will fire it up for you. All right, so let's go over a couple features. I'll start you over here on the steering wheel just because I feel like that's the easiest spot to start on. You'll notice there's a home button right here. So your home button is going to pull up this menu screen right here. And there's a lot of different things you can toggle through. And I'll just kind of touch on some of these just to give you a general idea. So if I have this pulled up, we'll start right here at the top of TAC. TAC, I don't think I need to explain too much. Range and fuel is exactly what you would think. And just to show you, to scroll through these, I'm using right here. And then if you want to select one, press down on that tab and it'll pull it up. So now I've pulled up some tripometer information. So if you needed that, you have it available to you here. You can also access that same information over here on the touch screen. See, I've got a tripometer button I can press there too and access the same info. So you can see I have 283 miles on this tank of gas, 283 miles on this tank of gas. So just depending on how you prefer to receive your info. Now down below that, speed and time, this is more related to your trips as far as just, kind of calculating and watching what you're doing. Below that, your audio. This is kind of nice because if you do have something turned on, you can see I have Mix 94.7 right now, and it'll even tell me the name of the song, assuming RDS is up and running. So it's just kind of nice. It makes life a little bit easier, and I like the graphics and display here. It's just nice and clean looking. Below that, my phone, so if I had a phone connected up, it would give me some of the Bluetooth controls. Now I have access to a voice command to do that also. And then I can do it off the touchscreen too. So if I want to come over here and then jump into my Bluetooth, obviously I don't have a phone connected up, but if I did, this is where I would access, my call history, my call log, anybody that I want to make a phone call to. And then there's some text functionality too here that's right there. So just know that you have a couple things set up for you. Now the car has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So I could press this button and wait for the beep for Siri or for Google. And then from there, I would be able to ask it to do things for me. So know that you have that capability available to you. Just remember though that you do have to plug your phone in the USB that's down here. So if you want to use those functions, you got to plug it in the USB. And if you're an Android-based user, you are going to need to download the Android Auto app. Once you've done so, you'd plug your phone in, and then you would see this light up and either say Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Once it does, you'll be able to select it, and then it'll bring up a screen and show you some different options as far as how those features work. Some different apps that you'd have access to would be Spotify, Pandora, the WhatsApp app, iHeartMedia app. As far as navigation goes, you would have access to Waze, Google Maps, and then of course you would have access to Apple Maps also if you're an Apple-based user. So just some things to consider. If you're looking for navigation to be in a car, this is a way to achieve that. The other buttons over here, if I want to, answer a phone call or to hang up a phone call, so you can see these are my voice command buttons. I've got some volume controls that are right here, and then a back button. So if I'm up in this screen and I need to back out, obviously I have that right there. My traffic signs is actually really cool. So what this will do is it uses a camera that's up here, and this camera is going to be a dual purpose, and I'll explain some more about that here in a second. But what it does is it picks up the traffic signs as you pass them. So if you drive through a work zone and it's lowered the speed, it's going to detect that and it's going to show you there. So that way, where some navigation systems will tell you what the speed limit will be, it doesn't necessarily help you if there is going to be some sort of traffic incident or anything like that where the speed has been adjusted accordingly. So this is a really cool feature. Or if you're just driving through an area that you're not familiar with, this really comes into play. So that's the traffic signs. So that's right there. Now, driver support. This is where I'm going to access some of my safety features. So let's show you what those are. So if I'm going to press a button, and you'll see it right down here. if I press that button, it's going to pull up some of these features that I'm describing. The first one is road departure mitigation. So what this is, if I start to drive off the shoulder of the road, it's going to be an audible alert, and it'll shake the wheel to be like, hey, wake up, pay attention. Maybe you're drowsy and you're sliding off the side of the road. So that's what this function is, and I can turn this on and off. All I've got to do is select it. Now I've turned it off, right? So know that if you don't like one of these, you don't necessarily have to have it on. Now I'm going to scroll down to the next one. So this is my blind spot monitoring system. So I want this to be on. And that's what I mentioned earlier. This is what you get when you come up to that EX model. So if I'm driving down the road and somebody's sitting in my blind spot, it's going to light up. So right there where you see that icon will light up orange. Now if I start to get over, whether I have my blinker on or not, it's going to audibly give me an alert and be like, hey, there's somebody there, pay attention. So that's what this function is. Super great. It's great for new drivers, and it's great for old drivers, let's be honest. Now below that, collision mitigation braking system. So this is set up to where if I'm going forward and it's looking like I'm going to rear end somebody, first I'm going to get an audible alert, then I'm going to get a visual alert in my dash, and then it's going to start to apply the brakes to prevent the accident that I'm about to be in. And the same thing, I can turn this one on and off too. So know that all these features have that ability. I don't want you to feel like you're stuck using something that you may or may not like. Know that you have the ability to turn it off, although these are safety features, so I would love for you to keep them on, because who doesn't want to keep their precious cargo safe? So that's 3 of the Honda Sensing Suite features, and I'll go over a couple more of them here in just a second. So let's just touch on those now, that way you kind of know what they are. So if I move over to the other side of the steering wheel, there's a couple buttons right here. The first one is going to be your lane departure warning system. So, or I should say not warning system, but correction system. It's called Lane Keep Assist. So if the main button is on here, you'll see ACC and LKS. So I'm pressing it to show you, flashing it so you can see them. So let me jump out of that screen so you don't have to look at that. So ACC and LKS. So what that stands for, Lane Keep Assist is set up to where it uses this same camera that I just mentioned to detect the lines on the road. So when I engage this button, you're going to see some dotted lines appear here. Now, right now, they're not filled in, they're hollow. So once you get going over 40 miles an hour, it's going to pick up the lines on the road and it'll fill in solid. That's letting you know it's now actively reading the road. Now, what it's designed for is if I start to drift to my left or my right, it'll actually correct the steering wheel full, and you'll feel a little bit of pull. If you've ever been in a car that pulls the left or the right, that's what it feels like. So it's not going to be overpowering, it's not jarring or anything, but it is there. Now, if you're not using your blinker, this is going to go off a lot and it's going to affect you. So maybe this isn't the feature for you if you don't use blinkers. Now, if you do, you're going to have a great time with this feature because it's going to help you out. It's just going to make sure you're not distracted, you don't spill your coffee, your dog doesn't jump on you, your kids aren't yelling at you, you fill in the blank with a distraction. Ooh, I thought I was going to sneeze. All right, now adaptive cruise control is this next button right here. So if I engage this button, you're going to see some dotted boxes fill in up here. So right, you see them right there. And if I keep pressing the same button, I get less boxes. Now, the more boxes, the more space it's going to create. And what I mean by that is when I'm driving down the road, I'm going to get up to my speed and I'm going to press set. Right? So now it's going to be holding that speed. So it says ACC off because I'm not moving. Well, let's pretend I'm going 65. And somebody jumps in front of me going 55. Well, normally if I had my cruise control on, I would have to, cancel, resume, do all that nonsense. Well, this is set up to where it'll keep that spacing that I pick with these boxes, and it'll slow my car down. And when I get out from behind them and there's no obstacle in front of me, it'll take me back up to my designated speed. And then from there, I can keep on down the road. So it's set up to where if I'm taking a long trip or I'm in stop and go traffic, I can set my speed and it'll just keep my spacing and I can go about my way without having to, adjust either my cruise control settings or, touching the gas or brake, because I just won't have to mess with that. And this will take you all the way down to a stop. So it's really cool that it has that low speed follow setup. So just something to be kept in mind if this is something you're looking at as far as the vehicle goes, or if this is a feature that you're interested in. Now, so that's the other 2 features that are going to be related to this. Now, the final one is probably going to be cross-traffic monitoring. So let's show you that too. Cross-traffic monitoring is related to your backup camera. So cross-traffic monitoring is this button right here. So this is going to be almost all of the Honda suite, just so we can get some of these safety features right out front for you. So if this button is on, which you can tell it is, if it's not, it's grayed out. If somebody's coming while I'm backing out. So let's say I'm in between 2 big cars and I can't see. You're going to get an audible alert and you're going to get arrows on the side of the camera, or excuse me, on the screen to let you know which direction someone's coming from. So that way you don't back out into a busy intersection, or if there's somebody flying down, the grocery store parking lot, you don't want to get hit by those people. So that's how this works. Now, while I have this pulled up, I'll just show you that you do have 3 different views on your backup camera. So I've got a wide angle view, so you got about 170 degrees. I've got my standard backup camera, and then I've got one aimed straight down. So straight down is great because if I have something sitting back here, so let's pretend those mats are a bicycle, my kid's bike. I don't want to run that thing over and mess up my car, and I also don't want to hit it if my kid's on it. Well, that's the purpose of this camera right here. And you can see these same lines right here, but it's really helpful. Let's say I'm backing up to a curb, a bush, a wall. Let's say I'm backing up to my garage because it's raining and I want to get as close as I can. This is where this comes into play. So it's a really great feature, and not everybody offers this, as far as 3 different views on your backup camera. So we went over cross-traffic monitoring, we went over both of these features right here and the additional 3. So that's the Honda sensing setup. So we can move away from that. I'll jump back up in here just briefly and touch on a couple things. So we talked about traffic signs, driver support is those features. Driver attention monitor just means if you're using all those, you're not necessarily touching the steering wheel a ton. You should have your hands on it, but you're not doing a lot. And your gas and brake might be controlled by other features. So this is just making sure after a point, it's making sure you're still aware of what's going on. Now, maintenance is just going to pull up exactly what you think. Your oil life, when you get down to 15%, it'll give you an audible alert and let you know. It'll throw a code at you too, A1, A2, or B1 or B2. So that way, when you go into the dealership or wherever you're going, you should already know what they're going to recommend to you. You can either look it up through a search engine, like Google, or you could also pull up your manual. So a lot of different ways you can get that access. And this is something Honda's been doing for a while. Safety support, that'll just pull up and show you which features are on. Right now I have them all 3 of the ones that we talked about earlier on. And then my warning, this is like if I had a door that was still open or something of that nature, this is where it would populate. So that's what's going on over here. So you've got a digital screen that you can control and see whatever you want over here. So that is the left side of my steering wheel, and then the right side we just went over. Now, something I didn't go over, but I should have. Let's say you don't want to use the adaptive cruise control. You're a more classic guy, and you're like, man, I just want a classic cruise. I don't want to mess with all this. If you press and hold this button for a couple seconds, there you go. You'll hear a beep, and it'll say cruise mode selected. I'm going to press it again just so you can see me turn it off. Now ACC. Cruise mode just means it's a standard cruise control. ACC means the adaptive cruise control using this button. So this is how I'm turning it on and off. Just press and hold right here. So in your stock over here, you do have auto on-off headlights, and then you do have fog light controls right here. And then over the other side, you've got your windshield wiper controls there. So I don't think I need to touch on those too much. On your home screen, one thing I really like about this home screen is it is very easy to customize. If I press and hold, it'll pull up, and you can see it would have given me some notes, but I can start moving stuff around. So if I only use a couple buttons, there's really no reason for me to have, one of those buttons way over here. Why don't I move it over to here? This car does have a compass, so just something to keep in mind. I get asked that a lot about the Pilot, which is moved away from their compass, but this car does have one. So you can see that it's customizable, and I can add and remove buttons too. So it's just kind of nice. If you only want 3 buttons up there, you could have that. And then when you're done, just press done. So that's how that function works. So we went over how Apple CarPlay and Android Auto works. FM, I'll just pull it up and briefly touch on this. You can see how it works. You can seek from here. When you want to set a station, press and hold. So nothing to it. It's easy. It's just a touchscreen as far as moving from that stand. Now, under your settings, there's a couple things I want to show you here. And the first is, if you go to connections, if you need to connect up a phone to Bluetooth, pretty easy to understand. Connect new device, and then go from there. Make sure your Bluetooth is on, and it'll search for that. So that's how you do that. Now, if you'd never added one, you could just press the phone button, and it'll prompt you immediately to connect up your first device. But if you were adding a spouse's device or a kid or something like that, this is where this comes into play. Now, your trip computer, we went over SMS text function. It'll just read text aloud to you and give you the ability, some extra functionality there. You also would have that with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, the car does come with 90 days of SiriusXM satellite radio. It's really cool. It's got nice graphics. It's a good layout and display. You got some coloring in here down below. But it's just that. It's a promo. They give you 90 days, and then afterwards, if you want to continue it, you'd have to talk with the fine folks of XM. You've got a couple USB plugs. So you saw one right there, and that's the one that you would use to use Apple CarPlay and whatnot. And then you have a secondary plug down here in the center console. And you can't see that well, but that's also an outlet, and then down here is also another outlet down in here. So you can kind of see it. So you've got a couple power outlets too if you want to go, the classic charging station setup where you can plug it into the cigarette lighter. AM, don't think I need to explain that. System updates, we all understand how that works. Your clock, if you need to adjust it, or if you just want to pull it up and have just this, you can set what pictures back here, whether you want to pick one of the pre-set up ones or you want to add something. So know that you have that ability to do that. And all I got to do, just that. And then I can come in here and start messing with stuff, whether I want to change backgrounds, I want to add a new wallpaper. So very easy to use this touchscreen. It should be easy to work through for you. Now, Honda Link, I just want to touch on this for a quick second. When you initially connect up your phone, it's going to prompt you with a question. It's at the very end of your phone connection. It's going to say, would you like to turn Honda Link on? And what that is in the event that you get in an accident and the airbags deploy, first Honda will try to call you. If you don't answer, they'll then call 911 and send out somebody to you. 100% free to have this feature. Take advantage of it. Know that that's free. This comes with this car. Now, additionally, Honda Link offers some other, I'll say, subscription-based products. Meaning that I would be able to start my car from my phone, control the door locks, different things like that. So depending on which trim level you ultimately pick for this car, know that some of those are going to be available. Now, if you want to look and see which vehicles have what available to them across any of Honda's line, if you go to HondaLink.com, you can look this up and play. It's pretty easy to check out. So that's the touchscreen setup. Your AC controls, it's a dual setup. We've been doing this for years. If I have them synced right here, they'll work off my side. If I unsync them, now they're controlled separately of each other. The fan speed stays constant though. So I don't think much explanation is needed there. You do have heated seats in this car, so that's your control here, and then you got another control right here. We went over some of what's in there. As far as your shifter goes, pretty self-explanatory. You know, park, reverse, neutral, drive, your sport mode, and then your lowered gears. You do have an Econ button. Honda's been offering an Econ button in their cars for quite a while now. It improves gas mileage, but when you use that button, it's going to shut down some of the electrical systems in the front end of the car, affecting things like your accelerator and your AC unit. I tell most people, if you're concerned about how it works, turn it on and off as you go. For people that are more conservative drivers, leave it on all the time. You'll get the better gas mileage. You'll never know the difference. Your parking brake is electronic. To set it, put your foot on the brake and lift up. Gives you the red LED there to let you know it's on, and it'll also throw something up here in the dash to let you know it's on too. To release it, put your foot on the brake, press down on the trigger, and it releases. So it's a lot like a handbrake where you pull up or you push down. Brake hold is set up. Now, this is for stop-and-go traffic. You got to have your seatbelt on for this function to work. But if I'm in drive, so now my car's in drive, I press the brake hold button. You'll see brake hold appear, and it'll let you know when it's actually holding the brake there. Now I can release my foot off the brake, so I did, while the car's in drive, and I'm not moving. That's what this is set up for. And then I move my 4 feet in traffic. So we're moving, up, we're stopping. Once it comes to a complete stop, it'll show the hold button again. Now I can release my foot off the brake and just relax while I wait. The car's still in drive. So cool feature as far as stop and go traffic. So just something to keep in mind, and that's how it works. My center console setup. I got a nice deep console. Let me see. I'll turn some lights on so you can see a little bit better. Oh yeah, you can see a little bit better in there now. And I've got, a change holder here, and it's got a rubber grip, and you've got a rubber grip down there. And this you can pull out and wash off. So it's kind of nice if you spill something in there, you get gook, you can pull it out and wash off. Know that that's available to you. Your console's nice and big. My interior is that gray that I mentioned earlier. It's like a neoprene finish. I don't know the exact makeup of what it is, only because I think Honda keeps that proprietary and they don't share it. But just so you know, it is a nice material. It doesn't show stains very well, and a lot of things will just bead off of it. So it's really nice when it comes to that. Now, these are always going to be black. This is always going to be black on top. Doesn't matter which car you pick. Those are to prevent glare. What is going to be gray along with your seats in this car, you'll notice, is your door panels and your bottom here. So those are always going to match up, right? But areas like your steering wheel are always going to remain black, and those door sills and lights, and so that'll prevent some glare and issues like that. And then your floorboards, which this one's got a little bit of trash, and sorry about that, are always going to be that like charcoal finish, and that way you don't have to worry about getting dirt or mud in it. It's not going to be a light interior if you pick a light interior vehicle. So that's kind of the rundown as far as the interior goes. You do have the moonroof, as I mentioned earlier. I think most people know how to use a moonroof. You just throw the button back and it sends it open. And if you want to crack it, I'll show you how to do that. Press directly up on the button and that'll crack it. Right? So I think we all understand kind of how a moonroof works. Other than that, you've got a sunglass holder and what I call new car stuff. I don't think this needs explanation. You know what it is and how it works. So that's a quick rundown of a 2020 Honda Accord EX. Hopefully this helps you. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. Comment on the YouTube video. Hopefully you'll do me a favor and subscribe and like the video. And let me know if there's something you think I should be adding or going over additionally. Holler at me and let me know. If you have a question about how a feature works, holler at me that and let me know. I'm here to help you. I usually check it almost every day, unless I'm just for some reason not around. I'd be more than happy to help you out. You can always comment in the YouTube video, or if you really want to call me or text me, you can. 737-443-9555. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. I'm usually pretty good about helping people out and get back to everybody. Thanks again.